following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Next of Kin podcast. I'm your host, Rich, joined by my son, Christian. How are you, sir?
Good.
You're not tired today?
No, I am.
Usually you say you're tired.
No.
Okay, well, good.
That never happens. I don't know.
So we're recording here at Emerge, as we've been doing for a while. Mm-hmm. So thank you for everyone that keeps listening to our podcast. If you're interested in being involved in podcasting, give us a contact on renomedia.com. And we'll get you hooked up and get your own podcast going. So tomorrow is Black Panther. Are you excited?
Yeah, very.
Got our tickets, 7:20.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if everybody shows up at the 7:20
I'm sure.
time.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably could be a bit.
There's always those regulars that we always seem to run into the same people when a movie comes out.
Yeah.
But
very true.
Yeah, so it's tomorrow. So today we're not talking about that at all.
Yeah.
We've got a
reviews are good though.
I think they've, there's definitely been a bunch of stuff. I mean, recent reviews, actual fan reviews.
No, I mean like the embargo lifted and everything.
So people actually now are talking about specific things.
It's at 86 at the moment on Rotten Tomatoes. So.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean,
it was at 93 for a while, but
I think we kind of know that this one's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, but again, everything was coming out of it. 2 hours and 41 minutes.
Okay.
It's going to be fun.
Which, speaking of runtime, we didn't get to do this last week, so I'm going to do this now. All right, everybody. For those of you that know how much I love Avatar, I've got a few rants about Avatar. And actually, I'm kind of glad that I waited because there's some new things.
Oh, good, yeah.
So the first thing is the runtime.
The
runtime for Avatar 2, which comes out after Thanksgiving, before Christmas. I don't even know what the date is because I don't care. Is over 3 hours.
I'll say one thing. Like, are you going to criticize the runtime?
I have to find things to criticize.
Why is it? Well, because I'm like,
no, I'm going to criticize.
Because think of like Endgame is like
it's longer than Endgame.
Well, Endgame's like 3 hours, like by itself.
But it's longer than Endgame.
Like Dune's long.
Yeah, but Dune was good.
True, but I don't think there's any problem with making long stuff. If anything, longer stuff.
Okay, but you know what he said? Here's why I have to pick on him. Because he said, like...
he keeps... if you're going to say, like, you can get up and go to the bathroom, if that's
like,
what you're saying, that's stupid.
Kids.
Like, he's
I think that is stupid.
That's dumb and, like, patronizing.
Grandma,
yes, I'll give you that.
Grandpa said we can go to the movies.
That's not our issue. Like, that's not anyone who doesn't want to go's issue. Their issue is they don't want to sit there for 2 hours.
And I think that was if you...
It's not that they have to go pee-pee. Like,
before I jumped off of Twitter, that's kind of what everybody was saying. I got off of Twitter. Yeah, I'm done with Twitter.
You should be... No, man. You should have stayed.
I'm coming back. I might join.
You don't have to pay. Not yet, at least.
I want to know if I go on Twitter,
I mean, nobody will be there if you actually have to.
My picture is just going to be a picture of me holding a check. That's all I want it to be. I'm just going to hold a check, and I'm going to say I'm authenticated.
Well, if you buy a check, it's like buying yourself a loser pin.
I feel like I'm a check.
It's like pinning a loser pin to your forehead or something. I don't know.
I voted. It's like an I voted sticker.
Yeah, but you just put it on your forehead. And it's like, I'm stupid.
I
want to pay $100 a year to tweet. It's the only social media app.
He's struggling financially.
Oh yeah, I bet.
So I mean,
well, those companies are.
I think he's probably insulated himself. Anyway,
I'm sure
back
he's fine
to this.
though. He'll be. I'm sure he'll cry me a river.
Back to another person that I can't stand. So James Cameron, he said, but then his other thing was
that Avatar 2 is going to be a masterpiece. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
man.
I'm going to say this right off the bat. I don't think that visually there's going to be anything wrong with the movie. I think the visually...
No, that is not our issue.
I think I've said 1,000 times, but I always like to clarify it. I don't think there's anything wrong with... It's going to... First of all, they've spent a ridiculous amount of money, so the visuals better be good.
Although I will say, like, the models are... Because the models are weird. Because the models in some shots, and again, it's a trailer, so it's very weird. And again, like, he kind of makes these movies to be looked at on... Sure. Rightly or wrongly, he makes these movies to be viewed like on a big ass like screen in a theater. Like that's
Which
just kind
is
of what
fine.
James Cameron does.
And I
with
have
these
no
films.
problems with that because I think that's a good thing. Dune.
So
is
maybe
not a
like when
movie
I
I'd
see
wanna
them
watch on
in
TV.
person, like because there's some shots where they look like really tactile, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, and they look like some of the more realistic,
Yep.
like photorealistic CGI character things I've ever seen.
Yes.
Like if
Like
but there's
the
other
fish
ones
looked
that
good.
look
Like the fish looked really
like oh yeah,
good.
the animals and stuff.
The
The
whales
animals and
looked
stuff
really
especially.
good,
But even
you know,
the
space whales.
But even some shots of the actual like Na'vi themselves too, I
Right.
thought were like really good, and they actually looked like that looks like a person, but it's just like a Na'vi walking around instead. Like, but there are other shots that I thought were like that looked like almost like it was like an art style. It was like really weird. Like I don't know if like
Some of them were like, this doesn't look
there was
any
someone
better.
where it didn't feel real to me, and then there were other shots where it
Yeah.
felt like real lifelike, and then there were other ones where it felt like I was watching like an anime.
Some
or
of
something
them,
weird, like
yeah,
a really,
like,
really like
They
li-
kind of reminded me of like
a
yeah,
ghost in the
like the
shell
cutscene or whatever it's called from
something.
a video game.
Yeah, that's exactly
or-
what I got.
And
like,
some of them
a little bit
didn't
of
feel,
Uncanny Valley
and
stuff.
some of them didn't really feel like significantly better than what he came out with 20 years ago or whatever the heck it was.
I think there's certain shots that would, yeah, there's certain, it depends. So
And again, back
like
to
in the animals and
so
stuff and all
obviously,
the landscape. That's
he
all
said
never was gonna be an issue,
originally
so.
there was other thing that came out that originally he had a whole other script for a whole other movie, and then that was going to be in zero gravity. So, but he dumped that script, and then and then this one's the underwater one. So it's Avatar 2. Now we're underwater. The tree doesn't look any better. We were talking about
Isn't the tree
that.
gone?
There's there's a light tree. There's a tree of light or
Oh,
something.
you're saying the
And it didn't look any better than what we've seen in Clone Wars. But regardless of all that, the funny thing about the underwater is I'm 99% sure from the research that I did, they shared the underwater tech with Disney because they're owned by Disney.
Yeah.
So Disney already stole it for some of the underwater stuff that we're going to see in
Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Because they got
and-
it out quicker.
Yeah. And some of that same text being used for Little Mermaid. So
Obviously, yeah.
So I kind of
I
funny
think you
that
can already kind of see it in the Little Mermaid trailer a little bit.
right.
like,
I
the
feel
one-
like the look of the and I don't again. He's had a lot of time and he spent a $500 million
to be fair, he's
on
developed the
tech.
technology for like 10 years. So,
Yeah.
and regardless of like the story, which
Yeah.
like I don't know what we're.
I think it's going to be. I think the funny thing about it is he's been crying for all
Which
these
again,
years.
and here's the thing: the original Avatar.
Whose rant is
even
this?
the original Avatar is not it's not an unenjoyable movie.
No,
that's not what our argument. That's not what our argument is
no,
here.
it's not.
Our
I'm a
argument is-
very petty person.
like it is a like Avatar like is actually like the best thing like like USA like
Yes.
the channel like Avatar will come on like once every 6 months and you're like wow Avatar's
For a
on.
while it was on all the time, and then they
Exactly,
I think they canceled
and then
all
they
those
realized
contracts.
that nobody watches movies on TV anymore. They stopped putting them out. But,
Yeah, I wonder. Like, I always think those movies that you see on all the time.
But it's
that-
enjoyable. But
yeah.
it's just a. But it's,
We've
here's
already-
The, but here,
right,
it's just.
I
I
don't wanna get caught up on
I get
too
it.
much on
It's just
this,
a
so,
very
yeah, I have to get to
standard
my
action
rant.
movie that borrows from
Yes.
a lot.
for a lot. Yes.
But the only difference is but I happened to develop like I don't know divine industry changing technology
So-
to tell this very average
Right,
story.
right.
Like,
So,
to tell-
and that's my thing. And I think when tech was when
it's still enjoyable though.
right. So when CGI, we've already had this conversation on the podcast, so I apologize for the repeat part.
Oh, yeah.
But we've said, like, again, we know that visually it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
But we just think that that the story wasn't great, and I'm not sure that this story is going to be great.
Yeah, I don't have any
based on
great
his
faith
track
in that.
record. Because let's be honest, we had this conversation the other day. Like, Titanic's not a great story.
Well, here, think about it like this.
No, let me finish. Titanic's not a great story. He wanted to make a movie that centered around, he wanted an historical event, and he did a whole thing about the ship crashing. Now, there's some wonderful parts from Titanic, but it's not like, the story's not great. Like, it's not, it's the most obvious story ever for a rom-com, you know.
I'm gonna be like, I haven't done much about the film or anything yet, but it just kind of feels like that each film might be like centered around like whatever technology they're trying to show off.
Sure.
Like, I don't know, maybe like I imagine there's gonna be another gimmick technology for the next one that comes out like a year or two later, right?
so let me
like
talk about-
because here's the thing,
Yeah.
because there's 4 movies, right?
No, I got to get to
Oh,
that.
you gotta get to that.
I got to
Okay.
get to
All right,
all
yeah, I'll
these
let you
things.
go then, and
So,
then-
so let me
yeah.
go and just without interruption, let
All
me
right,
go
yeah,
through
go.
my rants.
Yeah.
So the first thing is the runtime. He made the comment about people peeing. Then he made another comment about he hates superhero movies because everybody in the movies, all the superheroes act like they're in college and they're not in real relationships, and they never like hang up their spurs for their kids or things like that really ground us that they're humans. And I'm like, he never saw, then he didn't see Endgame.
He hasn't watched a movie.
He didn't see Endgame. He didn't see Ant-Man. He didn't see any of the animated shows, because that's a concurring theme that as these characters have gotten older, whether, I mean, Tony Stark quits the Avengers because he wants to have a family. It's a running theme of why Cap doesn't come back. He just hasn't, the movies that he's criticizing, I don't think he's seen.
So he hasn't watched them, essentially.
No, so
he's I mean, at least for that one.
So this is the grumpy old man, get off my lawn bit that I like to say.
Here's
my last one, because I don't want to get stuck on this. Yeah. I just like making fun of it. He said 2 days ago that he's not sure how many sequels there will be after all. It's all going to depend on how the audience responds. So it might end after the third movie. So he's going to set up the third movie, it sounds like, so the trilogy, so it'll just be a trilogy. So bullshit.
Wait.
So
third
this,
movie,
no.
Movie by the third one they're making now, or third movie
the
by they're
third
only going to
movie
make
that
two
he's making
right now.
He doesn't know if he's going to do 5 movies now. He said in an interview the other day that he's not sure that...
Well, good. I don't think anyone needs 5 of these.
But I think that already they've kind of gotten in his face and said, you've... But his whole thing is, it was a bargain on the tech because, I'm spreading it out over 5 movies. Well, we're not even... I don't even think we're getting 5 movies anymore. Yeah. I think we're going to get 3. And we're definitely going to get... There's no doubt in my mind we'll get 3. We're definitely going to get 3 because it's a big enough property. It's going to get 3
sequels. I think there's already 2 done, right? There's already 2 that are done filming.
No, because he said that he may rework 3 so that it could end.
Oh, so but either way, it's like a Lord of the Rings type situation where there's a bunch of footage and we don't know if what the so some of the footage I have now. So besides
he's gonna find a way to condense
the movie that's done right now, all the footage could easily be reworked into different whatever it is. So they really don't have scripts then.
No, I think he has scripts, but I think he's...
no, that means they do. But if he's that willing to just throw the story away, then I don't have any great hope for the quality of these stories. First
I
off.
think that or it's come down to the fact that
from the tech again.
Yeah,
but
that they just think there's not. I think he's starting to realize there is no market for 5 movies. When it's all said and done.
True.
So he's gonna.
Well, so
this big conversation.
I don't think this one will be gonna be. I don't know if this is gonna be half. Well, it depends on the fanfare. I don't know because it might just is it Christmas?
I don't know anybody talking about it.
No, but that's not the point.
I have not heard anybody say. Oh God, thank God!
I've been seeing
people have talked about
Wakanda's
Wakanda's coming out. I've heard people talking about other things that are coming out, but I haven't heard anybody get super excited. There was more conversation. Just that I saw people talking about Black Adam than there was about Avatar 2.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know. Didn't the trailers get a lot of views?
Well, here was the funny thing. There was a big trailer that got re-released, and we're from Niagara Falls, if anybody listens to this podcast. He's from Niagara Falls. We live in Niagara Falls, New York. He's originally from or grew up some part near Niagara Falls, Ontario, which is across the river. And so supposedly they were doing they were going to show the trailer on Niagara Falls. Yeah. They were going to use their video projection system, and then there were going to be a bunch of drones flying around, but I don't know when that was supposed to be. I don't know if I missed it. Where we live, I think we would have known, and I think people in our community would have been talking about it, so I don't know if it didn't happen. And maybe it's coming up at another point.
Not sure. So, either way.
Well, I'm done.
For the Marvel thing that he said, it's just all right, wow, you're making a bold opinion there, buddy. Nobody's getting
It's not even original.
It's not original, and it's it's not supposed to be high, it's a mixture of stuff, because it's not... Yes, they're not always the greatest films in the world, but they're not really.
No,
but they're also
Avatar
not
wasn't
being,
either.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He doesn't have a leg to stand on for
or
Avatar
Abyss
isn't groundbreaking in terms of the story it's telling.
Right. We even said you and I had a bit of a
anything,
fight about
it's
this.
Anti-human, man. I'm team people. Fuck the Na'vi, man. It's
I think, and I do think. The best.
I have seen a lot of that shit that people hate Avatar for because they kill but the humans are the evil, and they don't like that. And
Well,
then
again,
and
he's-
then
and
they,
he-
it's
and
like
that's
I'm
not-
team human, man. It's
Yeah,
like,
and he
it's like-
stole that from Dance with Wolves. So
Yeah.
Okay, so
Either way, let's move on, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean,
We'll talk.
and
We're
here-
gonna talk plenty
yeah.
more about.
Yeah, we definitely will because
Avatar.
You
in the
did say we have
coming
to go
weeks,
see it, and
so-
I'm not. I'm not.
I'm
going,
gonna make you go. So you've talked about it way too much to not go see it.
Do I
so-
have to? So.
Yes.
All right. We have obviously we want to get to. That's enough on Andor.
Yeah. The only thing about its box office, I'll say, is like I don't think anything's coming out around it.
Well, and that's his geniusness.
Yeah.
He's very good at promoting his
holiday,
films. And
like-
I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's made a bunch of
We'll see.
billion-dollar
We'll
movies.
see.
I don't really. Whatever. I just like to make fun of it.
I got some news.
It's okay. I have some news too. Let's talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about The Devil's Hour, which is on Amazon Prime. We're going to talk about Andor. You have some news, but we're going to really focus on at some
I
point.
don't know if we're gonna really focus on, but I have some stuff about it. We're just
No, Fallout.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
Fallout.
gonna be the main.
We want to
focus,
talk a little
but-
bit about Fallout because I don't
Yeah,
think a lot of
Andor,
people know
too.
what Fallout is, and you seem to be very excited about it. So I think I want to get to a little bit of that.
Probably at
so,
the end we'll talk about that.
So what do you got for news?
Let's start with. Let's see. Star Wars, I guess we can do. I have a couple
While you're
Star
doing
Wars
this, can I
things.
hum the theme to
No,
to,
you cannot.
to Avatar?
Absolutely not. There's nobody knows it. So
That's my-
you said you fucking certainly.
No,
don't.
it's great.
So,
It goes like this. Avatar. It's a planet.
Avatar
in
is,
the
there's a big
space,
tree.
and there's a tree. and
we
a
plug our
guy,
tails into the other tail.
and you will die on
Yeah.
Pandora.
You will most likely die on Pandora.
That guy would be a country singer.
I'm gonna get that tattooed on me. You will most likely
Oh,
die
fuck you.
on Pandora.
I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. But go ahead. All right, what do you got?
Anyway,
Give me something good.
And the latest, the latest director to direct a Star Wars movie is what we got,
great.
or at least rumor. Deadline, I think, reported this. That Sean Levy, I forget what it is.
Sean Levy.
Is the director of Deadpool 3, which is gonna come out. I think it's a year from now? 2 years from now?
Is this Accolades?
What?
This is not Accolades.
Acolyte?
Accolade.
No, this is we don't know anything about this. What this film
Oh,
is?
well,
we
good.
Just know,
But this
we
is
just
off
kn-
to a great start.
Yeah, this is great. We just know that he's
Is
in
Kathleen
talks.
Kennedy producing?
I have no idea. Actually, we don't know that. We're not that far into it yet.
Okay.
But all we know is that he's doing Deadpool 3. Otherwise, he's most known for being the executive producer on Stranger Things. He does like episodes 2 and 3 every season, basically, for that show.
Okay.
So he's going to apparently do a Star Wars. Again, we hear about this all the time. That after this director, who's incredibly busy doing this and this, after that, then they'll get to Star Wars. They did it with the Game of Thrones guys, which fair enough. I don't want them anywhere near it.
Yeah, I'm glad
I don't want them near
I'm glad
anything.
that fell apart.
They did it with. Well, actually, when they announced this guy, it also got basically found out within the same day that a different guy, J.D. Dillard, who I forgot even had a Star Wars movie, said that his movie was no longer a thing. So one for one. It's like
That just.
But
I know at some point
but
they
I like
need-
Sean
they need-
Levy. I think he's like one of the better ones they've announced. I think we talked about David Lindelof like last week,
Yeah, right,
having like a movie as well. So I'm like, okay, great. Now we got like 2 more things. So
I don't know.
and Taika's movie has not been talked about in months. So which I don't know if Taika's gonna.
I think
Then
that
again,
one's, I think that one's
then again,
dead
that
too.
Taika idea was so like
I think that
wild
one's
and out
dead,
of
too.
and I think and nobody responded to it at all. Like once he started talking about it, and also he was rubbing the fans the wrong way. Like
Because he was trying to be funny.
but he doesn't understand that
He
it's
doesn't.
sensitive.
He doesn't. I think he does know that he doesn't care because, like, he said, "I'm just going to ruin Star Wars." But it's funny
But I
because,
don't
like,
know, nobody minded that. But like some of the other stuff.
because I saw an interview. He was talking about, like, how he decided to make What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, like, I was at a party and I heard some guys talking about making a movie about a vampire, so I decided to steal their idea, which isn't true at all. But he, like, does it,
Yeah.
like, and he's like, and it's funny. He likes to
Yeah.
do that.
And I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
But it's just that
he just doesn't
like,
take interviews seriously at all.
It was just that his idea was batshit, first off, because it was like 26,000 years or something before.
I don't
And
know if that was accurate, though.
I don't
Was
even
that
know.
really
Yeah, to be
accurate,
fair,
or
I don't
did
know.
he just say that?
To be fair, like, but I don't know. But like, it was so obscure because it was a real thing. It was like a real thing that it was like kind of vaguely inspired off of that was like extended universe or something.
Right.
And like it would have been like he would have had to have done like research to find it. Like so unless he was like really wanted to fuck with people and like literally found like the worst or like most obscure thing to say he was going to adapt,
Right.
then it's just to like make people mad. But here's the thing, like you can't do that because like we hate Lucasfilm.
So do we know anything about this movie besides that
No,
there's
we
a
just know
director?
that Sean Levy is like
And we have no
is
concept.
apparently going to
That's just
maybe
they hired
do
a guy.
movie at
hired
some
a guy.
point. For
Okay, well then that's almost not news.
but I do like Sean Levy, and I think his vibe.
Well, that's
like
a
Stranger
better
Things
vibe than
like
yeah. Okay.
And the last couple things he did was like Free Guy.
Yeah,
which
no, I
was
know. He's got
okay.
good stuff,
And
but-
I like what's the other one? It's called Adam Project was pretty
yeah,
good.
that was good too.
So
Yeah, Free Guy and Adam Prime were both very good.
and he did like Night of the Museums. He's like the guy that did all 3 Night of the Museums, I think. So he's been around longer than I thought actually. But
Well, those are Oscar worthy.
I mean, they're fine. They're like the first couple are fine.
The first
right?
one's got it.
Yeah, the
Second
Smithsonian
one's-
one's like vaguely okay.
Yeah.
He's like
All right, what else you got?
Otherwise, with Star Wars, we got the Acolyte announcement, which
Yes.
we
There's
got.
even some casting announcements.
Yeah, we
correct?
got basically kind of like the main cast announced, not names or anything. And we got a little bit of
We know the actresses, but we don't know who they're
yeah,
playing.
we got a little bit of a snippet. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember correctly. This show is supposed to focus more on like dark side stuff, like Sith, and it's supposed to be like.
But
in
almost
the-
they don't even know that they're Sith
Yeah,
yet.
it's supposed to be in the High Republic era, which is like kind of this era they've been setting up in like the novels and comics and
Is
stuff,
the
and
High
the behind the
Republic like
scenes
the high
right
ground, or no?
now. But I think it's supposed to be like 50 to like 100. I'm just ignoring you. 50 to 100 years.
Just remember, I have the high ground.
Like before like Phantom Menace, so it'll be like a bit early on. It'll kind of be in the like kind of like a shadowy, supposed to be like a espionage
Okay.
mystery thriller thing.
I like it.
I think the snippet they gave us was that like former Padawan like reunites with their master to like investigate like a crime like or something. So it's like a mystery, like almost like
Right.
new film noir thing. It's like a Jedi doing
Who's
like
who did they
doing
who did
Jedi
they
doing
announce for
Jedi duties in a period with no conflict. I
Right.
guess they literally at this point they wear like all white robes with like gold and stuff. So it's even more like
Okay.
kind of like
Who did they announce
prissy
is
and-
going to be in it?
Yeah, we got Amandla Steinberg, who's most known for the Hunger Games and probably The Hate You Give. She's not been in a lot actually, but like when she was younger, she was like Rue in like the Hunger Games, like the
Right.
little girl that like kind of allies with like.
Okay. So
Jennifer.
she knows fandom.
Yeah, exactly. And she's just kind of well known,
Right.
in general. Then we got Lee Jung Jae, who is the lead in Squid Game, so
Yep.
like very well known,
Yep,
just
that was
for
good.
that.
He's a big star now.
Manny Jacinto, who's most known for like The Good Place and like Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, okay. I did.
He was one of the pilots, I think.
Yes.
Daphne,
Well, that doesn't narrow it down. 'Cause they're
Daphne
pretty much,
Keane?
except for the girl, they were
Yeah.
all pilots.
yeah, Daphne Keane, who's most known for playing X-23 and Logan. He's
Oh, yeah.
also in that
Right.
HBO show, like
Yep.
His Dark Maternals, I think.
Okay.
Materials. Jodie Turner-Smith was Queen and Slim, I think is the thing she's most known for. She was opposite Daniel Kaluuya in that, who's obviously like really big. Get Out and Black Panther, all that kind of stuff. Rebecca Henderson and Charlie Barnett are both from Russian Doll, which is the same showrunner that is doing this, Leslie Headland.
Wow, this is a lot of people announced already. So this is
Yeah,
pretty
this
much.
is the showrunner and like 9
This is really moving
actors.
forward. This
yeah.
is like really
then we
moving
got
forward.
they're filming now. They have sets
Oh,
and
I
everything.
didn't
They're
realize
filming
that.
right now.
Oh,
This will
okay.
be out. I'm not sure next year, but
Okay.
at least or probably early 2024.
Oh, I didn't realize this was already a thing.
Then Dean Charles Chapman, who was what's his name? Tommen in Game of Thrones, and he was in
Okay.
1917.
Oh yeah. That's what's his name?
Yeah, he
That's,
was good in 1917. He dies, but
Well,
he said,
Spoilers.
yeah, whatever.
Now I'm
yeah.
not watching that.
Yeah, yes, that movie's 2 years old. Get over it. And then Carrie Ann Moss from The Matrix, Trinity, which is Trinity's in Star Wars now.
All right, they got to get the
So pretty
crossover.
good. I like that cast quite a bit. I imagine
Is Yoda going to be in it?
yeah, probably. I would.
Well, he's
I actually
around.
think Yoda will be in it. Or at
What
least
about R2D2?
He won't be like a main character.
What
I
about
don't think.
R2D2?
Because again, these will probably be like.
No, I think they're gonna. You'll get.
These
an-
will probably be
you'll get a
lower-ish
cameo.
Jedi, like Jedi Knight
Yeah,
level Jedi,
right,
who
right.
so they don't see, and even in like the Jedi Order, it's like always said like a Jedi don't even know each other, like they don't even meet until like they're old, like for years and years and years at certain points.
Because they're like kind of like monastery type things.
Well, there's like
They're
15,000
always
of them.
given.
You know
There's
what I
always
mean?
given things to go off and do. Like you
Exactly,
know,
they
like
have tasks and like
Right,
all sorts of
right.
other stuff. So
side
Mm-hmm.
challenges.
Yeah.
What else you got for that?
I'm just trying to think of. I don't know.
Any other news?
I'm just trying to think of some more stuff related to Acolyte. But basically what we've seen with kind of the way they announced it, like the first 4 like cast members, so I imagine they're like kind of the leads, is like Amanda Steinberg is like the first one, and then Lee Jung-jae is the second. So I imagine that they're the 2 Sith. I think
I don't start worrying about that.
With the no, I'm saying with the like the little snippet of like the plot that we got with like the 2 like the master and an apprentice on the Jedi side, I imagine that it's like we get a parallel, which is like a master and an apprentice on like the
I get that.
With the Jedi side, and then
but I mean you don't have any information on that.
But also we have like, but I'm thinking like, okay, we have like kind of 2 like kind of guys that look about a little bit older, than like younger-ish female.
Carrie Mouse, who's obviously supposed to be a more established person.
Yeah, true.
Probably.
But you have like Daphne Keene's only 17. Amanda Steinberg's I think
so there's
22.
probably some Padawans.
So they're a bit younger.
And
They're like more of the Padawan like look. Like they both.
Let's just wait and see. I mean, let's not try to read into it too much. So
we'll see.
What else do you got? You want me to do one? Or?
As far as I'm concerned, this is basically This is basically X20.
Is
Daphne
Filoni,
Keen's
Filoni,
way right back
those
into
guys all involved with this?
I don't think they're involved in this one, but this one it seems to have a bit of. I like the casting. The plot was interesting that I've seen.
Right.
Again, we don't know too much about it.
Okay.
They released like one behind the set picture, so
okay.
I don't know. We'll see. This will definitely be Daphne Keen's like ticket into like. Actually, Daphne Keen and Amanda Stenberg this will be their way into Marvel again.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, like given. Like I wouldn't be surprised if she just gets to play X-23 again in Marvel. So.
Okay.
Like an older version of the character, which is usually the version we get in the comics. So anyway, what you got? Any news?
I have. There was Black Adam. Basically, they still do not have.
It's gonna bomb, yeah.
Well, what the problem is that it still doesn't have a China release date.
It's not going to get one.
So
there's talk
and
it's getting canceled.
It's just
what's his name apparently had a bracelet or something, or like something that he wore that was like the. What's it called? The Dalai Lama or whatever, and obviously the Dalai Lama is like kind of like Tibet or whatever.
I didn't see that. So.
It's a very controversial thing for like.
I don't want to get into like Black Adam again. We've already done it. I don't want to have a whole debate about Black Adam.
But either way, it looks like it's not going to make its money.
It's not going to make its money. It would have made money if it could gone and done China. But now that it would
have helped a lot.
They would have made
banking on it going there.
Now
especially because it got accepted months ago,
right.
And it looks like it's not going to get released now. It was already passed to be one of the few films because again.
Well, I don't. That's all I had. Is it just kind of?
But it is a
like
lesson that these studios are because China's letting us release less and less of them, and not to mention
then you got to stop
Disney
making
for like
these.
That 1 year
then you have
like
to
a
stop
bunch
making these movies with the thinking that
you can't
that
like
you're assuming you're going to make $1 billion in China, like which some of these movies do.
There's been too many flops and too many times where the Chinese haven't even let you release your films there to pander and to like kind of do like especially like think of a film like Megalodon, how much like that movie like or not Megalodon, the Meg, how much that one was there just to pay. Look, it's in China, like.
Well, and they've done that with a bunch of things like
there's plenty of things you could
think
of.
Even one of the criticisms people had for Rogue One is that they brought in Asian actors, which is stupid, but
it's dumb,
they were great. Both those characters were great, but they
were established Chinese actors,
right? They wanted to have established
who were very very popular in China,
right? Which was good. Right?
There was truth to that, yeah,
and they were great.
Yeah, that's significantly less.
No, but
when
Rogue One came out, that was definitely a thing that a lot of people.
You're just trying to say there's like a trend
you're
of like
just trying to force like
there's been a trend of trying to put elements in your film that'll make it more appealing.
Well, like you
to
said,
Chinese
all of a sudden
audiences.
this movie's taking place in China for no reason, and it's good. Everything has to take place in New York City.
Take place in like America. That's not what I'm saying either.
Right,
but like.
Oh, I got to tell you something I watched.
What?
And I don't want to talk about it except say it was the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen.
Okay, sure.
Moonfall was the worst.
I've seen. Yeah, that's
it
not gonna
was
be good. Yeah.
So
There's a
bad.
post-credit scene. Did you watch it?
Was it what?
Did you watch the post-credit scene?
I did. Yes.
I don't know what it is.
Why did they bother?
I just know there's a post-credit scene.
There's never.
It would not get made. It lost $100 million.
It was so bad. There was nothing.
I don't know who keeps giving Roland Emmerich money to make these things.
It was
usually they make money.
There
to
was
be fair.
There wasn't thing like, well, that was nice. Like there wasn't a
no.
It was
that one looked
it
like
was
truly.
It made like 2012 look good.
I've heard that
It
one's not
made
even good in like
the
a fun
day
sort
after
of way.
tomorrow
This
to after.
2012 is at least good in like a over the top.
This
like,
tried to over the top, and it just
Yeah.
didn't make any sense. And they had all the same stupid characters. Like it was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, 2012 is like
you
weird
know.
because it's like aged poorly because it's 2012 and it's
Yeah,
just
the
so over the top.
snowstorm.
Like,
I mean, it was
it's
just like it was just
it's
so
iconic
bad.
for over the top.
It was just
almost.
so bad. So I don't want. I just like.
I hope this
I
is the
felt
end
bad
of him
for
making
Sam.
fucking horrible
I felt bad
disaster
from
movies
Sam
now.
from Game of Thrones. I don't know the actor's name because I like him.
Charlie's in this.
Sam.
Sam, yeah, Samuel Tarly, yeah.
Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember
What's the actor's character's name?
Yeah, I don't remember the Sam. Yeah,
yeah.
Tarly, yeah.
Yeah,
Alright.
I like him. I was hoping it would be successful for him, but he's
There's
dead.
a lot of people that were known in that, weren't there?
Yeah, there's
a lot.
yeah, it's bad. So
Stop giving Roland Emmerich money to make movies. That's basically what
they
I'm
take.
like.
They,
That's
like
the-
you're grounded.
what- do you
You
have
said
anything
there
else?
was an announcement about Deadpool 3.
No, I did not.
I thought you said something about Morbius or something.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, Mobius is. I don't know if this is a leak or like a rumor, or if this is a official announcement or not. But there's a report that Mobius from like Loki is gonna be in Deadpool 3.
Okay.
Which I don't know, but obviously that's
Well, that
just-
would make sense if they TVA
That's
or
what
something.
if they're gonna do like a weird time,
Right.
Which again
Which
this
might
movie's-
make sense
this
why
movie's
the characters
clearly
end
gonna
up
be
in the-
Deadpool breaking into the end or something like that. It's gonna be
He's
something
gonna
very.
use the TVA
it's
or
gonna
something.
be something very fourth wall breaking.
and that's how he's going to end up
like
with
time
that
travel-
version of
Yeah,
Wolverine.
the TVA would
Right.
fit well with the two characters. If they could just go on a time jump around
I
thing.
wouldn't be surprised if there's not a moment in the film when Wolverine's you're not Deadpool. I killed Deadpool. Well, that was the shitty ass Deadpool. I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't some those kinds of references
see.
to what happened in Deadpool 2, and obviously, some of those kinds of things.
But that's exciting if that's true. I like that. Otherwise, do you have any other news? I have one or two more things, but
I just we want to get to Andor. I don't know how much you want to talk about Fallout, but I do want to talk about the Devil's Hour.
I have two quick things, and
Do
then you
your
can talk
quick
about that
things.
then.
Good.
So apparently there's a Dune show that's going to HBO Max.
Yeah, you talked
I didn't
about
know
that.
about this.
Yep.
But it's going to have Travis Fimmel in it, who I think is most known for Vikings, which was on History Channel, I think,
Right.
weirdly. But the sequel series is on Netflix. I've heard heard good things about him and that. But it's also going to have Emily Watson, who was the woman in Chernobyl.
Right.
Who's very good, and one of the everyone in Chernobyl's great. But is again one of the main three people in that film, and then someone called Shirley Henderson. But hopefully we're gonna hear a bit more about that. That's called Dune: The Sisterhood. So I assume that has to do with the order or whatever,
Right, the witches,
the women order, whatever
basically.
it's called,
Yeah.
the Bene Gesserit or whatever it's called.
How did you remember that? Oh, that's good.
I retain useless information. That's my best.
Is that like the
trait.
Jesuits that run Canisius College?
I might have said Jesuit.
I think you said Jesuits.
It's it's
Jesuits is
very
a
close to
order.
that though.
It's probably
like
very
really
close.
close.
No, you're
Actually,
usually
it
right.
might even be linked if I remember correct. If I remember my Dune lore correctly, that there might be some weird because again a lot
it's
of
nice
Dune,
to know
a
that
lot of
in
Dune stuff is just
100,000
weird,
years, Canisius College is still around.
I don't
That's
doubt
nice
it.
to
Yeah,
know.
well, they're not going to be around
So-
soon based on the current trend. So,
You had something else? That looks
this
good.
is
That sounds
ru-
good.
This is the most flimsy ass rumor thing
Oh,
I've seen
great.
in a while.
Yeah.
It was I think
Was
there
this
was,
on
there was I don't even know if this was
movie rant or something,
No,
cinema
I don't
rant
even
or
know,
whatever
but
that
this was
stupid terrible thing is called?
I'm pretty sure this was completely just fans
Screen
putting themselves
rant.
into hysteria.
Fuck you, Screen Rant.
But it was a report. I don't know if this was a leak. Again, I'm saying this again, or if this was a news story. But there was some report that David Zaslav, the new CEO of Warner Brothers,
Right.
Not James Gunn, but the other guy,
Yeah.
who's running DC,
The producer guy.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan and Steven Spielberg had lunch, and then somehow around then that seems to have related to Superman now. I don't know how those two
Spielberg's
things
not
relate
making
at
a
all,
Superman movie.
but I'm It would be cool. Like
Spielberg's at a point. I think he's recognized that he's kind of getting older, and he only wants to make smaller movies.
and also like the Nolan thing is like.
he only is going to make. He's not because if he wanted to make a big movie, he would have done Indy 5.
And this also feels weird to me. Like, okay, so why do you know they're doing Superman? Why would like both Nolan and like him be there? Like Nolan also like yeah, we're gonna talk.
Maybe
about,
they just
we're
went
gonna
to
talk
lunch.
About,
People have to eat.
Exactly. Like maybe we're not doing like a business meeting to like have ideas because obviously that meeting is also important because like I don't think people are remembering the fact that like Warner Brothers like burned their relationship with Nolan.
Right.
Like they tarnished it with
But the
when they did
previous
all
people
when they did all
it.
the release on on HBO Max.
Right.
It actually was pretty financially successful for them when they did that. But for them except for some of it. But like they got a lot of people on HBO Max from all that. But obviously like it rubbed Nolan the wrong way to the point that he like obviously they've been taken over and there's no leadership. But I can almost guarantee you like there's no way like the entire leadership of like the old Warner Brothers is gone or the old apparatus is gone to the
Or
fact
maybe they're
that,
just
like,
friends and they
nobody
wanted
that's
to go to
perturbed
lunch because
with,
there was a nice restaurant.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's a bit.
I'm kidding.
I mean, he does have like a DC, like the new DC head, and then like a Spielberg, and then obviously like one of the more iconic DC associated like.
Well,
directors
Spielberg
of
and
all
Nolan
time.
obviously have like a
So,
relationship already. So
I would imagine
there could
so,
be some
yeah.
other projects too that are just.
But I imagine
They
it
could
was
be
just
other
a-
projects that they're just bringing
I imagine it
into
was to try to
Warner
rebuild
Brothers.
any bridges you had, which
right.
you're going to need more than one meeting to do. I would
Right.
imagine,
And it doesn't have anything to
And-
do with Superman or the Marvel or the DC universe. It could just be other things that are going to be part of like Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I know Nolan's already been involved in Superman in the past because Nolan's one of the executive producers on like Man of Steel and stuff. So,
Right.
so maybe it's just maybe he's gonna be the maybe he's like they're bringing him back as executive producer.
Oh,
of
that
Man
would
of
make
Steel
sense.
too. or
yeah, I
something.
forgot that
don't
he was
know.
the executive producer of that.
So that could make sense,
So-
and maybe that's where the idea of like of that being Superman and
Right.
having a director there,
and
Spielberg.
that transitions us
Spielberg-
into
Superman's-
Nolan's involved
yeah.
with Fallout, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is true. Is that
Because you showed me that video that was hilarious.
yeah? You want to do your next?
Yeah.
You want to do your thing first,
So,
and we can talk about that.
All right, so yeah, this is not really, I don't know if I would call this fandom, but it is because obviously I'm a Doctor Who fan. I think a lot of the people, you're obviously a big Doctor Who fan. So everybody talks about who the Doctor was, and I'm not one of those guys who has one Doctor. And I think my Doctors quite often depend on the mood I'm in. So I like Tennant, I like Smith, I like Capaldi, I like I'm really fan of the Doctor, Tom Baker is my favorite Doctor of all time because he was my first Doctor. But I really liked Capaldi a lot. And so I saw that he was on this series, this limited series on Amazon Prime called The Devil's Hour. And it was supposed to be like a psychological thriller. So I just turned it on. And he plays and this isn't really giving anybody away because it's in the trailer. He plays looks like a serial killer. And even in the trailer and even in the first episode, he's in jail already and he's in the red jumpsuit or the orange jumpsuit and he's being interviewed by a woman. And the woman in the film is Jessica Raine. And the reason why I recognized her is when they did around the 60th anniversary, they did a movie on BBC called Stories from Time and Space or whatever it was called, and it was supposed to be how Doctor Who got started, and she played the first producer of Doctor Who. So she's got this Doctor Who relationship, and here she is with Capaldi, who's obviously got a Doctor Who relationship, and it's really a very, very complicated, intricate story, and it's real creepy. It's very, very well done.
A little bit of it, and I'm like,
And
I popped in the middle of it, and I was
yeah,
very confused.
I want people to watch it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to really talk about it except to say you should watch it because I think Capaldi's
Say it
performance.
again? What's the name of it again?
It's called The Devil's Hour.
The Devil's Hour.
It's called The Devil's Hour because the woman, Jessica Raine's character, she wakes up like for her whole life at 3:33 in the morning, which is also like a thing that's the hour that people wake up. It's the devil's hour. So it's like this psychological scary thing. There's a lot of weird shit going on. She has a son. She's divorced. There's these parallel stories with these cops, and it all comes together. What's really cool about it is it was produced and created by Stephen Moffat, who is obviously the showrunner who's Matt Smith's and Peter Capaldi's showrunner.
Yeah.
And he also wrote a lot of the stories under David Moyes.
David Moyes, soccer coach,
yes,
West Ham coach.
He wrote a lot of the stories under Tenet that ended up like he created River Song and a lot of those stories that kind of led into the Matt Smith era. So I'm like, oh, of course, that's why he's got all these like Doctor Who people working on it. What's really interesting about the only thing I'll kind of give you a tiny little spoiler, and then I'm going to move on from it, is that it's kind of like Doctor Who meets Groundhog Day. That's the best way to describe the movie. So if you've ever seen Groundhog Day, it's a loop in time. And basically, characters within this series, it's only 6 episodes, and they basically are, it seems like they're reliving their lives, and they can almost remember things from the future and the past in weird ways. And it's really, really, really well done.
They're living the same life simultaneously. They're living like...
They're the episode of, remember where Capaldi's in the dial?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's almost like that.
Ew. Weird.
But it's got a thriller horror element to it.
Yeah.
There's nothing there's nothing like
obscene
in it, or nothing scary.
Gory.
It's psychological. It's like Hitchcocky and psychological thriller. And I really, if you've got Amazon Prime, I urge you to watch it. It's really cool. Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso's in it.
Oh, yeah.
The detectives everybody in the film is really, really solid performance, and there's even some rumors that they might continue with it into a second season. But
cool.
it's definitely like, oh shit, this was good. Like, it's, if you liked that era and you like those complex stories that Moffat did and how things overlapped, and oh my God, remember when that happened? Oh, that led to this. Like, you can tell that Moffat had. Remember
it's very bingeable.
Remember we joked about how Moffat must have had like a giant dry erase board, and how this connected to this, and this was all over here.
Yeah.
It's got that.
Episodes, right?
It's got, was that only 6 episodes?
Yeah,
it's not a major commitment. Watch it in a day. And that's what I got. So that's all I have, except the other stuff we got to get to.
We got, what do we got? Andor now?
We're Andor, and that's it. Unless you want to do some stuff about Fallout at the end. So.
Okay, we'll do Andor. We don't got to do too much in Andor, because like it only came out today. I want people to go watch it, if I'm being honest. Like, all I can say about Andor is just like, if you're been put off by Star Wars, like for like I don't know, any given period of time, or you're not watching it, or you just want to watch some good TV, or something that's like a bit more serious in the Star Wars world than like the average thing is, then like go give Andor a watch. Like, it's very different. Like, it has a completely different vibe than anything Star Wars put out before. It reminds me of HBO-ish stuff and that type of storytelling a lot more accurately.
Yeah,
this is a great end to this episode today, the 10th episode. We got 2 more, I think. Is a great end to like the prison arc. Executed better than I could have imagined it was going to be. Andy Serkis, tour de force acting performance. I don't even want to spoil anything.
I don't even say, like, if I was like,
I just want people to go watch.
I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get a nomination for an Emmy from this performance. He might get like for that one episode.
Yeah, he might get some like guest or like guest actor, like, you know what I mean, or like
well, because
or like that. There is that one episode thing too, and he's really good in this. One of the better performances we've seen in any Star Wars thing.
You know what? Let me comment on it too.
And his role is so like it's it's needed. It's like, I understand why an actor, even in the last episodes, it was clear too why an actor like Serkis was needed in like his caliber, but like this episode, it really comes to like how much it's needed.
A couple funny things that I wanted to mention.
His intensity too.
First of all, and I read this, and I'm stealing this from something. Yeah. If you think about like, it's Star Wars in every way.
Just really into the political underbelly of Star Wars.
But it really gets into this how the rebellion would have gotten started.
Yeah.
I've said in a previous episode, like, Luke Skywalker comes wandering in at the end and is just amazing, but there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people before him that did all the terrible things, which I love how Rogue One began, and then obviously they're really exploring in Andor, and it is incredibly Star Wars. There's just something about it, the vibe.
And again, the Star Wars has always been very
just,
lived in.
you know,
It's been very realistic in some way, in terms of like the average like
the
person
production design.
in terms of the average person,
Yeah.
how like in the lore,
Yeah.
how the average like just person or being is existing in like Star Wars. They're living a pretty like kind of like not too dissimilar life from us. Like they have just normal like transactions and capital. Like it's just like they're very real. Like they're just it's very like it's a very lived in world.
This story arc of Andor, you know, and obviously going to prison isn't really a spoiler because this is the third episode of the prison arc, and it is obviously leading to characters that is going to lead him back to the rebellion, and it's very interesting. Just how good he is in this.
Like it's,
and just to kind of it's I mean, we literally were cheering out loud when we were watching this episode.
It's because it's representative of like many things at once. What we see like almost like the Empire like of buying the bait of like the Empire almost bought the bait from like Luthen, and obviously they did
right.
But obviously, like a little bit of pushback for like probably the first time against like rebellion. But obviously, how formative it is to like Cassian as well. Like, so there's multiple like reasons why it's like it ends up being really impactful. Like not just like one or two, but like a multitude of like different things.
It's so good, and I don't want to get we can't get into the details too much. And that's just talking about
the Cassian stuff in this episode. There's some also like. There's like one Mon Mothma scene, but it's really, really good. Yep. There's like one or two Luthen scenes, but they're really, really, really good. There's a couple decent stuff with the ISB still. The ISB is like being handled excellently. I couldn't like ask for anything better than
I think if you're a big fan of Star Wars and you kind of look at like, you know, the joke that the stormtroopers couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, so to speak.
Someone said this is like a live action novel, and I'm like, that's a good way of like,
sure,
like the way 12 episodes, like
but
the,
the ISB is so like and again the way they just make them look like Nazis is just so
which
great.
is like that's what it
the
is.
Jackets
like that's like
and the pads,
which
and
that's not like
it's
creative
so,
free. That's not creative liberty or anything. That's
no,
like
but
how
they
Lucas,
really
that's how Lucas like imagined it.
But
it's really on the nose. Obviously,
what he couldn't
but like,
do in 1977 and the 1981 in Empire, and he didn't need it in the prequels because that's not really a thing yet.
It's subtext in the originals. In this, it is
this
the
is
forefront.
Like, man, these are fucking Nazis.
Yes, it brings
like,
the subtext, the background details and politics that create like the baseline of Star Wars in the
slave
background.
labor,
it just brings it to the forefront.
Genocide,
yes, exactly.
And that's why it's so inspiring to me because, like, I mean, you know, I'm 10 years old when Star Wars comes out.
Yeah.
And it's a child's story.
But
I'm not a child anymore. Yeah. I'm 55 years old, so I don't want to just be like. The good guys, you know, have a like, you know, whatever. I don't want the good guys to look like this and the bad guys. I want complex storytelling, and I like the fact that this is still Star Wars to me, but it's a sophisticated Star Wars for an adult. I'm sure James Cameron wouldn't like this,
us to
but
anywhere
it's very
new.
good.
Realistically, like this stuff has always
it's all
been
happening.
There.
It's happening within the universe that already exists.
Yes, exactly. It's just putting this. The spotlight is finally being taken away from like the mythical hero in the middle, and it just being put on like like kind of like the horrific reality or like the realism of the world and like the everyday life of these people and the struggle.
I read an article online today, and it was kind of saying like everybody was talking about Games of Thrones, House of Dragons, and everybody's talking about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and everybody's talking about this show, and then the guy said, but then the guy's like. I think it was Andor all along. This is the one. Mm-hmm. I mean, not that it's.
I mean, I love House of Dragon.
I think House of Dragon.
I like House of Dragon a lot. So
I mean, I like them both. But I get the sentiment of the article that Andor, as it's gotten better, is getting to be as good as as House of Dragon. And here's the other thing: what I like about this. It's not gonna be able to get to a point where like, oh my God, they're jumping the shark on this show because they're only doing 2 seasons.
I will say and
that's it.
I will say
so they can focus and they don't have to kill time and they don't have to have one-offs. They can just they're just boom. Here we go. Here's how the rebellion got started.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's what you mean.
Rebellion. Let's ride.
That's right.
Let's
Yeah.
ride.
But yeah, very, very, very good episode. Again,
There's just
it's
a couple
finishing
like
strong.
heartbreaking
If
moments.
if these next two
There's like
are
4 or 5 really heartbreaking moments in this thing too.
if these next 2 episodes are really good, which I think there are gonna be at this point, like then they're gonna end it really, really strong with like 4 or 5 really good episodes. And like, who would have thought the prison arc would be like really, really good?
Right.
Like it's like I enjoy the prison arc almost as much as I enjoy like the Aldani arc. Like,
it's funny because I thought I was going to hate the prison arc, and I thought it was going to be cliche and everything.
but it's needed.
And it was needed, but it also was done incredibly well.
Because it connects to Luthen's thing really well too. Like weirdly, like they don't even have communication. Like they don't even know. Like Luthen doesn't even know Andor's there. Andor doesn't know Luthen caused this. Like, but yet like their stories are like are still having impacts on one another.
Right.
Like,
yes, they're all threaded together in some ways. And like I said, I thought that just like, and it looked so Star Warsy.
yeah.
The production design gives you. It feels
This episode especially.
It feels the jail.
Yeah, that's very, very Empire-y, very Star Wars. I
Like
agree.
It looked like it was built by like that stark white, and it had a feeling of. It kind of reminded me of like the Tantive 4 ship, like
Yeah, I agree.
it almost like the production, the people that built the company that would have built the Tantive 4 or whatever, if I get the name of the ship right, was the same company that built this present. Like designers, like architecturally, it had like that kind of 70s
it was very
vibe
consistent with like the Star Wars vibe. Yeah,
it kind of and Andy Serkis, like it even had like kind of a weird vibe that reminded me of like Clockwork Orange.
And it's beautiful. They're merging the two vibes of really well because like we're also getting like really excellent prequel era vibe stuff with like the Mon Mothma stuff. Like the Senate looked great every time we've seen it. Her like room thing is like very, very reminiscent of like kind of like Padme's stuff, like in Phantom Menace
Before the Dark Times.
Exactly, like
before the
and like kind of the
Empire.
really elegant like Senate rooms and stuff. Like exactly. So like they're doing both vibes like well for the first time in the same show.
That's what I always loved about the prequels is I loved the majesty of it. Like that. You know, we weren't in the Majesty anymore. We're on. You know,
it was big ideas,
Tatooine,
and it didn't translate.
And there's
quite
sand everywhere, and the ships are all broken down. It looks like shit, and it's dark on the Death Star.
Yes.
But then we get to the prequels, and we're like, here's these beautiful planets with these castles and these.
The center
of
the galaxy.
The center, like
everything is
like
in the outer rim.
Before the Empire, before the Dark Times, before the Empire.
Yeah.
You know, definitely good. And the performances are amazing.
Exactly.
Yep. So, all right.
What else we got?
That was really all we had,
That's all
except
we got for
you.
news and
You
stuff.
wanted to talk a little bit about
How
Fallout.
far are
You
we
said
into the podcast?
we are 51 minutes in. That's it.
We got like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's because you're pretty excited about this project, about this film, this TV show.
Oh yeah. Let me just pull up. So basically, they're doing Fallout. It's a game series.
So yeah, while you're getting yourself organized there, the thing that we've talked about is that every time they try to take a video game and turn it into a show or a film, it's a freaking disaster. And some are better than others, but most of them are a hot mess. People were super excited about the Master Chief show, and it was like
Halo. Yeah, Halo was a disappointment.
We got Chris Pratt playing
there's
Mario. I mean, like
I
it's
was
all of these things.
No, to be fair, everything about the Mario movie, like fans are very, very happy about,
except for Chris Pratt.
Except for the fact that like it's just Chris Pratt.
But even
doing
going
his
back
voice,
to like Assassin's Creed, they blew that.
That movie was bad. Although there's a show in development now at Netflix, I think. But
okay. I mean, but the point is,
and Last of Us looks good. Last of Us, which I've even talked about Last of Us, and that there's been trailers for that coming out and stuff. Actually, Last of Us, I will happily espouse for hours and hours about as well. But
so which property are you more excited for? Is the thing Last of Us or
Last of Us? Because I know for a fact, based on what I've seen, and given the fact that it's HBO and like Pedro Pascal and like all these like people that are very, very
is that
talented.
the Nolan show or no?
No, that is I forget who's
the
doing
thing
that.
You showed me. What was that? That's Fallout.
The thing I recently showed you.
Yeah, with Nolan sitting there talking about he was unaware.
That is Fallout.
That's Fallout.
Last they're both apocalyptic.
Well, that's why I get confused here.
Yeah. Last of Us is just like fungus zombies.
Okay.
That's what I'm best way to call it.
And
is
those
the
fungus
apocalypse.
zombies there,
And they're creepy as fuck.
creepy as fuck.
Yeah. That's gonna be amazing though. So I am more excited at the moment, and that's in January. That comes out in January. So like that's much sooner. Whereas Fallout, I think is.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's next year or 2024, but it's filming right now, I believe. And the showrunner for that is actually, let me just pull it up because I want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Okay.
This is going to be on Amazon. First of all, it's being developed by Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan, otherwise
right.
known as Westworld,
Right.
which just got canceled. Which
Yeah, we didn't talk about
which,
that.
Which hey, if we didn't talk about that, but rest in peace, Westworld. It ends weird. I mean, to be fair, it ends obscure
It
and
ended
confusing,
it was
just like the
perfect-
show.
It was a perfect way to end it. I feel like
It's
oh,
open-ended,
great,
yeah.
everybody's alive again.
It's like a simulation thing,
Right,
so it's like all right. It would have been a very weird.
I kind of like where it ended.
It would have been a very Lost like.
And I
phase.
think it would have
You
been
remember, like the last season of
anticlimactic.
Lost, when it's like when they're all like in like a purgatory and they're all like and like everyone's dead, but they're all at the end of their timeline and we're all ready to go together for some reason.
Right.
Like it would have been some shit like that. Because
Yeah.
they're in the weird simulation.
And it would have
now
been
at that
annoying
point,
that, like,
so-
oh my God, she's back. She's alive again. Oh, he's alive again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's alive again.
But I will
Like,
happily sacrifice the 5th season of Westworld for Fallout quicker, or
Okay.
more Fallout.
Sure,
I
why
happily
not?
will do that.
Okay.
So they're definitely doing the writing on that. They're not the showrunners, but he's definitely doing at least a couple. This is Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother, written a lot of his movies, probably most for known by for himself at least, and
Right.
Lisa Joy, who I think is his partner as well, for Westworld, obviously. But Fallout itself is I don't know. Where do you want me to start?
Just, I don't know anything about it. Let's assume the audience doesn't know anything about it. Tell us
Okay.
what it is.
Fallout-
Tell us about the video and tell us about the show.
Fallout is about, I think it's turning 25 this year. There's been like 5 games, or no, actually there's been a lot of games, but they originally started off as kind of like this 2D like RPG, which is like a role play game. But it's like a 1950s. I'm just gonna literally read what I have here. 1950s retro futuristic, post-apocalyptic role play game, which basically means that you create your own character, you get into the world. There's a story that's within the world, but basically you have a significant amount of creative control over like what decisions you can make, and like how you're able to influence it. So instead of like this being a video game known for like say like a Master Chief type
Right.
character who's like kind of the main,
Which
like,
makes it harder
badass
for them to
character.
screw that up.
Which again, like
'cause-
Halo also has like a really cool like world
Right.
building around it that isn't used to its fullest extent in the show. But the game is centered on like it is kind of like on the back of Master Chief. Whereas Fallout, like yes, there is a main character, but it is completely customizable, and everyone's experience is totally different. Even like the skills of that character, like it takes a lot. So like your character might be really good at one thing, and another person might be really good at other thing, and like a certain fight style. Like you don't want to like put yourself on everything.
So from there, though,
From there though, that's like gameplay stuff. I
so
wanna
how
talk
does
about
it get?
actual
How does
world
it? How does
building
it get
of
into the world building, and how do you think
If
that
you
looks
can tell,
compared to the
if
show?
you can't tell, I'm particularly a fan of world building.
You do like world building.
Quite a bit.
Yes.
But basically, Fallout is essentially an alternative history, in which after World War II, is kind of where the divergence is. Alternative history are just our history, but it's like one thing changes and then it leads to a different timeline. Almost half of them that I've ever seen are just if the Nazis win World War II. It's like
Right.
otherwise, this one is more if the United States kind of developed like nuclear like fusion power like more accessibly, like in the 1950s, and then kind of like the technology and attitude of like the 1950s and even like the American culture just kind of persisted and like evolved. So everything is like it's like a 50s style.
Yeah, like the
but
Coke.
with, like,
the Coke product is called what's it?
Nuka-Cola, and it's in, like, so
Nuka-Cola.
you have like kind of this ironic like
right.
self kind of this fear of annihilation, but it's also like
Manifests itself within the pop
yes.
culture.
And again, like this is also a comedically it's a comedically evil world, if that makes sense, like, or a comedically like I'll see if I can find a good place to start. So you can think of like Red Scare type of America.
Right,
like very
right.
anti-communist, and they use that against like to kind of like brainwash their own like American citizens. Everyone's kind of shady. Nobody's good. Like there's not really any good entities like in the pre-war, the pre-apocalypse, like and most of the games exist in the apocalypse that followed this America. So
Right.
you're existing in like not only are you existing in like a future like a 1950s.
So this world is after an apocalypse
The
that
war-
took place in the 1950s.
No. The war. No. The war happens. The nuclear war that ends like the
Society.
modern society happens in 2077. But the technology and culture of America persists with that of 1950s aesthetic and attitude.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but like with nuclear powered and like anti-communist and it was made in the 90s. So like instead of making like the Soviets or like the Russians the bad, back when the original Interplay, I think is the game that originally developed the game, they chose China to be like the big bad, and that has aged pretty well given
True.
just like how big China has become, like as a nation. They saw China as a rising nation, and we're like, well, maybe they'll be like the threat one day. So they used China as the alternative threat. So, but basically, you get to this point where you have a kind of overconsumption of resources. Kind of once you get into the I don't know, 21st century, essentially,
Right.
and kind of like I think it's like the 30s, if I remember correctly. You have like start to have resource wars between like, and again, a lot of this is vague and is like
This
it's
is all
just-
from the
A
games.
lot of this is
though.
in the games. It is pieced together like from just like knowledge or you find in the
So,
game.
so let me.
So
I don't
it's
want. We
supposed to
can't
be-
get into all
yeah,
the specifics.
It's supposed to be very
It's-
obscure.
So
though.
I think that's
like,
a good
the
enough
whole,
thing.
like,
You've
sense of the-
established like how much
Yeah.
it is. So let's get into now what you know about the show that's coming out, because I think it's important now,
Yeah.
because we can't talk about everything. There's all these different games too. So
Well, I don't
why
even
does
do-
it
I'm
make
just doing a
you,
generalized,
based on
like-
that generalization stuff that you know and what you know about, why do you think the show looks like it's got the right vibe going?
Well, I can give you the aesthetically from what I've seen of the show, it like has almost identical to like the games, like in terms of like a one for one aesthetic. Like even like the little promo video they did with like Jonathan Nolan, which even revealed that like he was a big fan of like Fallout 3 and he got like obsessed with it. It's,
Well, he makes a joke. It's really
Yeah.
funny. He's like, I was going to write. How did you get involved with this? He's like, well,
He also gives
I was
those
going to
per-
write the great American novel,
Yeah.
but then my friend bought me this game, and then that was it. I ended up working in movies. In other words, I never bothered writing a book, but I had to find a job because all I was doing was playing video games. So that's how I ended up in movies. So it's a kind of, he makes fun of him.
Yeah, you
his
also
own,
get like he
his
gets,
own
he
career
gets handed like a
trajectory.
Nuka-Cola, like that Nuka-Cola we
Yeah.
were talking about. He gets handed like a bottle right
Yeah.
from the game,
Like
from
by
from
a
a guy in
in
Power
a-
Armor, which is the big like iconic weapon from like the game
that
series
you find in the game.
that you
right?
can find and use in the game. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just gonna go through a little bit of like just
Yeah, what you've
lore
seen
and
so
stuff.
far.
I don't even have. There's not too much with the. There's not too much. We know like Walter Goggins and a couple other like rather what's the original Paul Atreides from like Dune, like the
Right.
original Dune is in this like.
Oh,
So
okay.
like we do have some casting stuff, but mostly like we don't even have like we have like that one image that we talked about the week ago.
Right.
But I'm just saying, we don't even know necessarily where it's going to be. We don't know what time. Obviously, it's going to be in the apocalypse. Almost every game has existed in the apocalypse after the society. So you're existing in the ruin of an alternative history. So like you don't even get to see like the full brunt of it. Although there are a couple games where you're like alive in the like in Fallout 4, like the biggest game. Like that's the first game I played. You fight in the war. Between like you don't get to do a level or anything, but your character is a veteran of the Sino-American War, which is like the war between U.S. and China. That is the war before the Great War, is what they call it, which is literally 2 hours long and it's just a nuclear exchange between like the U.S. and China that basically is like destroys the rest of the world as well. There's all sorts of other funny lore up with this, like that basically U.S. and China just like because again it's supposed to be like bleak yet like funny. It's like dark yet like humorous and like ironic and like cathartic and like it's supposed to kind of represent like the bit of like a wink wink nudge nudge and how we view like a lot of like corporations and like the government or our own world, but a very
Right.
comedically evil version of that.
Okay. Well, so when does this come out? And this is on, you said
I think it's
Amazon?
either next year or 2024.
Okay, so we got some time for this one.
But either way, like the apocalypse itself, though, within the how much time? What are we at now?
Well, we're in an hour.
Give me like a couple minutes. But either way, like they have a lot to they can play with. Like
So what would you hope that they
I
would
think
play
because
with?
even like the apocalypse itself, like the type of stuff you run into, it's like comedically like dangerous. Like so the amount of shit you have to deal with, or like that have been in different games. Like each game is doesn't even have like the same factions, because every game is essentially there's multiple factions, and usually you have to make like choices that have different morality, and a lot of the time like there's not a clear good choice or bad choice. Sometimes it's like there's pros and cons to this, but some people are gonna suffer, or there's pros and cons to this, and some people are gonna suffer. Like it's not like it makes you make tough choices. It makes you can play with evil morality. You can play with like as a good player who's like altruistic. So like you don't have to. So you're just kind of capturing the vibe again for this show. You don't have to follow like a certain character that you have to adapt fully or adapt a perfect storyline. Because again, everyone when playing all these different games has had a different storyline. You just have to nail the aesthetic and like the tone.
Right.
So it should be a little bit easier than a lot of these other games.
Right. Cool.
And then again, you're playing with
Yeah,
like
it's a little bit easier because they don't have like a set thing that they have to worry about offending. Oh, that's not what Master Chief's like, or
and I'm just gonna go run down very quickly. Then I'm not gonna even do very long explanations of all these, but I'm just gonna say.
I think we're gonna get into the weeds.
Exactly. I'm just gonna say some of the crazy things that literally get dealt with when you're in this like apocalypse.
I'm excited.
One, vault tech, which is like basically these pre-war vaults, like from a American defense company, that they were supposed to like save the American people when the bombs fell, and they would like you would go into these vaults and
So
save
like
you.
fallout shelters.
Yes, exactly. But instead, these were actually the company is comedically evil, and each vault runs unknowing experiments on their inhabitants.
Oh, wonderful.
So, and typically,
well, that sounds great.
like for instance, like you get cryogenically frozen in Fallout 4, so your character wakes up. You're from 2077. You wake up 200 years later.
Oh.
Into the apocalypse. So your character is the first character that's like from like the modern day that like is now in like the wasteland.
Right.
You also have like ghouls, which are basically like irradiated humans. You have both ones that are like basically their brains rotted and they're basically just zombies. They're feral is what they're called. Or you have ones that are sentient. So they look like zombies, but they're just people still, and they don't die. They don't age.
Oh, well, that's
You have super mutants, which are these big, like, which are kind of like these giants almost that are like this weird mixture of like basically a military base got nuked during the exchange, I think is what it is. And there's basically like it's almost like a super soldier type serum thing, or like some like cure to like a plague that was going on, and basically whatever that did basically creates like these abominations. Like and then there's super mutants. There's also centaurs, which are basically like even less like looking human than them, and they're just like these. You think of like like flesh monsters in Rick and Morty, like the one when the first world, that like it looks like that. Like you have mutated animals with like two heads.
Yep.
You have love like in the background, like you have aliens. Like that are like this is very very background. You have Lovecraftian like entities and like cryptids. You have
so they got a lot to play with.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's like facts. There's
so obviously they're not going to throw them all in right away.
Plenty of war factions. Yeah. There's synths, synthetic humans, like basically the exact thing that the Westworld robots are. Like. Again, so there's a lot to do. Death claws, which are like these big, which like everyone thinks are these mutated animals because there's all these other mutated animals. And it's like, no, the U.S. Army made those, and they wanted to replace humans with them. And they're these giant, like bear size.
Okay. I think I get it. I think we've got enough. So okay.
But yeah, like it's very over the top, but it's very humorous.
It's gonna be a little. The only thing I worry about with this, something like this, it's gonna have to be.
There's a lot to
it can't
deal
be too
with.
nichey because then. There's, I mean,
it's apocalypse. Like it's not apocalypse at the end of the day. It's not too.
But
far,
they can't throw too many random things in from the game just for fan purposes because
it'll be interesting. Because the interesting thing is always how do they set up the aesthetic of the world, and then also introduce you to like an apocalypse. Because again, it's hard to introduce you to a society when that society is also dead.
Right.
And you're existing in the ruin of it, and you're so.
Cool.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
All right.
I have a lot of hope for that show, and hopefully it can be. I mean, Jonathan Nolan.
Well,
very
me
talented.
too, because
Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy are very talented.
Nolans are
writers,
great. I
so
mean,
they're a little convoluted at times. So hopefully it's a bit less. I imagine it'll be a bit less like that.
I'm hoping that it's a little lighter, because not that there's anything wrong with Westworld, but
also the morality
I
of
would
Westworld.
I'd like it to be a little bit lighter. I sometimes it's everything gets too dark.
Actually, I think that's. But unfortunately, I think it needs to be more. It needs to be significantly more humorous than Westworld, like a bit more light. Because again, like part of the vibe of Fallout comes to just meeting insane people as you're like around.
Right.
That's kind of just what it is, and like just getting into insane situations.
Right.
Like even like a lot of the technology you're gonna come across is like stupid and insane. I don't know. Just
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
I lost where I went. Oh no, here's where I wanted to go with this. Think about like the early seasons of Westworld with the park.
Yeah.
Like or like the idea of like each guest playing with the morality of what they could do in the park.
Right.
That's exactly like what the games are. And if anything, I'm like, oh, maybe like Fallout. He played Fallout. He said it like it. Maybe like a bit of Westworld was inspired by like playing like an RPG game like Fallout.
That could be true.
Like, so I do think like the guy he understands like the of getting in the head of like choosing your own like story very well. So I think these are pretty good people to like adapt a game like that, considering their old show was basically like just a really convoluted like
Cool.
dangerous version of that game.
Anything else on that?
That's all I really got for now. I could talk about Fallout for hours, but
No, I
this is
think
a pretty decent. That's a rather decent rundown for the limited time
I
we
think
got.
that gives the people a good sense of.
Also, we annexed Canada in before the.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because
that's kind of how we were talking about it, because you were talking about the different maps and stuff, and there was.
Yeah, there's a very very limited amount of lore, but there is something related to like Niagara, like the Niagara Falls region. And,
well,
like,
because again, and that goes back to when I was a kid.
Reference to like a attack on a power plant.
Right, because when I was a
Niagara,
kid, like growing up in an age where everybody was worried about being bombed by Russia, by the time I got to high school, nobody really kind of believed it, because everybody kind of got the politics of it, but there was always that thing growing up living in Niagara Falls with the power plant.
Yeah.
Here and another power plant right across the border, that Niagara Falls was always supposedly listed as one of the main targets that Russia would attack if they ever had a nuclear war, because if they blew up Niagara Falls, then they would be they wouldn't be able to generate a bunch of power.
Yeah.
So.
Your phone's going off, man.
I don't know what I did there. So interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah, I'm excited.
I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about what we got left with Andor. I'm super excited about Avatar 2.
Yeah.
But more importantly,
Rick and Morty's back for the last couple episodes in a couple weeks.
Say that again?
Rick and Morty's back in a couple weeks.
Rick and Morty's, they're off their hiatus soon.
Most importantly,
we've had kind of a thin. Besides Andor, we really had too much to watch, and that's why I stumbled across Devil's Hour, because I was looking for something to do.
I started watching.
I know what I wanted to give you a rumor about. There's a rumor floating around that I brought up in a previous episode that now that Disney's involved in distribution with Doctor Who, that they want more stuff to broadcast.
Oh yeah,
so
we were kind of talking about
there's a rumor floating around that they want to do a spin-off show about another Doctor that's in his timeline. So the rumor already floating around that the only one that makes sense is Paul McGann. So there's already a rumor floating around that Paul McGann might be getting
I'd be down for that.
A limited series and/or maybe a spin-off of what happened within his Doctor Who timeline.
I would say one thing real quick before the show ends, I'll go really quick. I watched speaking of video games, Cyberpunk Edge Runners came out on Netflix. It's an anime. But it's based on Cyberpunk, I think it's 2077, which is like a game that came out like a couple years back. It was horrible when it came out, incredibly bugged. But it was a very very anticipated game for years. I think it's based on like an old game from I don't know, like
what
years
was the name
ago.
of the game?
Cyberpunk 2077. But either way, it's like it's kind of like it's a role playing game.
I remember Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's very similar to it's a role play game, kind of like Fallout. But the anime is like basically based on the game itself and like the aesthetic of that world and stuff. And it's the first couple episodes I've watched have been very good. I've heard good things. So maybe there is another good video game-ish adaptation out there.
Well, I
right
think
now.
they finally are
So,
getting. I think they're finally getting around to the
They
fact
seem
that
to be doing.
you got to know the fandom
more often.
You got to know the lore and you got to
Yeah.
know the fandom. And I think now there's a lot of these people. You know what I think part of it was, and I think we get in with this, is that a lot of the people we just heard, well, Street Fighter's popular, let's make a movie.
Yeah.
But they were
Without
adults,
respecting the-
and they
yeah.
didn't play the game. Their kids played the game, but now what you've got is you got a whole generation of people that grew up with these types playing these games, and now they're adults, and now they're living in Hollywood or wherever they live, and now they're producing things. So I think we're finally getting to a point that
There's overlap
we're
now. Like,
getting
the
people now that can do the product, that
It's
can
not
do
people
these
that don't under-
projects
it's people that
correctly.
understand it,
'Cause-
actually
right.
wanting to develop it now.
There's
Maybe,
Dave Filoni's out there that grew up watching Star Wars and now work in Star Wars, and that's really kind of what we're getting to with the video
I would say
game
both
movies.
Fallout and Last of Us both have massive involvement of the
Well, if it's
original,
25
of the
years
original
old.
game studios.
Yeah.
Like so.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's
Bethesda,
25
like-
years old, so if you were 12, 15 years old, you're 40 now, and if you're
No,
a
I'm just saying
producer...
with these shows. I'm
Right.
saying with these
no,
shows.
but my
that are coming
point
out
is
now.
that these games have been around long enough in most cases that now the people that
Oh,
grew
yeah, I
up
see what
playing
you
those
mean. Yeah.
games, they're adults now and they have real jobs, and some of them are movie producers and TV show runners, and now they're like, I want to do Fallout because it was a game I loved as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, in 30 years, we're going to get people that turn Minecraft into a Netflix show.
Again, I'm not always. Again, seems like they actually gave this show a better showrunner than a lot of the other Amazon shows get. But
Or they were the one who pitched it.
yeah,
They're the ones who
either way,
walked in and
I don't
pitched
know.
it. So,
Yeah.
all right, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, well, as always, we do appreciate everybody that kind of tunes in and sticks with us. We enjoy doing this. We hope you enjoy listening. I'm sure we're going to be getting back into the studio relatively quickly with somehow a spoiler-free version of of an episode that's talking about Wakanda Forever. And but in the meantime, we've given you some suggestions of things you can check out. Please, check out some of the other podcasts that are on our network and reach out to us on Emerge and some of our social medias, and if hopefully Next of Kin on Facebook and Instagram, and follow us and then tell us what you think. Take care and have a great week.